Destroy What Destroys You, Volume 1, Essays on Abolitionism and Intimate Authoritarianism by Lee Shevick, read to you by the author. Introduction. Pictured on the front of this zine is a burning bed in reference to Francine Hughes, a survivor of 13 years of domestic violence before she eventually liberated herself by killing her abuser as he slept. On March 9, 1977, Francine's abuser, Mickey, physically assaulted her, refused to allow her to feed their children, berated her to quit school, and, when she refused, he forced her to burn her own school books. Francine called the police. They came, did nothing to help her, despite Mickey making a threat on her life in front of them, and left. After the police left, Mickey forced Francine to cook him dinner, raped her, and then fell asleep. After he was asleep, Francine got up, put her 3 children in the car, poured gasoline over Mickey as he slept, and lit him on fire. Knowing that if she left him alive, he would find her and make good on his promise to kill her himself. It is common practice to put battered and distressed victims on the cover of works that focus on domestic violence, and it is a tradition I will not partake in. Experiencing the trauma of intimate violence is undeniably part of the survivor experience, but so, too, is resistance. From something as seemingly small as breaking one of our abuser's rules in secret to acts as insurrectionary as setting them on fire. I became an abuse survivor early, before I could even speak. Throughout my childhood and multiple times in my adulthood, I have found myself the focus of someone else's project of coercive control. Yet, it was only after leaving my abusive marriage in 2019, when I picked up theory on abuse for the first time, that I ever began to feel capable of understanding it. Since then, I have researched and theorized extensively on domestic violence. While I am not under the impression, as my writing here will make clear, that merely understanding abuse is sufficient either to protect oneself or to escape it, I do see it as a vital resource for both nonetheless. Simply having the language to describe the tactics and values shared between otherwise very different abusers has been invaluable to me. It is a gift I hope to share with every survivor I can. Destroy What Destroys You, Volume 1, is the first of what will be a growing series of my essays on domestic violence, what I refer to as intimate authoritarianism and abolitionism. In Is Punishment Carceral Logic?, I examine and refute a common misconception about abolitionism and carcerality, mainly that the central characteristic of the carceral system is its use of punishment, thus framing a spectrum of possible consequences for harm as all inherently carceral. Against a Liberal Abolitionism expands on some of the critiques made in the previous essay and explores liberal influence on abolitionist politics. In this piece, I challenge the tendency in liberal abolitionist discourses to frame transformative and restorative justices as the only valid abolitionist strategies rather than tools among a necessarily diverse array of tactics. In Our Abuser's Humanity, I examine the tendency of people to respond to the anger of abuse survivors with exhortations to remember the humanity of their abusers, even going as far as to tell survivors not to use the term abuser at all because it is dehumanizing. I critique this rhetoric, examine the logic beneath it, and argue that the person in most need of humanizing in an abusive relationship is not the abuser, but the survivor. Why Don't They Just Leave? Entrapment as the Context of Abuse is another essay that explores and refutes a common abuse apologia refrain. The belief many people have that the issue at the center of an abusive relationship is the victim's refusal to leave. The truth, I argue, is that the inability of the victim to leave is what characterizes an abusive relationship. Intimate Authoritarianism, the Ideology of Abuse, is the first essay in which I introduce the term intimate authoritarianism, the value system underlying all abuse. I connect my conceptualization of intimate authoritarianism to the logic of authoritarianism in general. Here I explore how vulnerability to abuse is socially constructed and how intimate authoritarians regularly refer to and work in tandem with larger systems of oppression to further undermine and co-opt the agency of their victims. Lastly, in Tactics for the Fight Against Abuse, Learning from Anti-Fascism, I offer a framework for understanding how to best confront abuse in ways that reject liberal abolitionism by learning and taking from tactics and strategies deployed by anti-fascists such as deplatforming, distributing community warnings, and engaging in direct physical confrontation. You have my full permission to distribute this zine and these recordings where and as you'd like. You can find to read, print, and other files of this zine at ko-fi.com/butchanarchy, where you also have the option of donating to an ongoing survivor fund.